Before I get into today's message, I would like to make a correction. In my last video, I listed a quote, "In God we trust, all others must bring data," as being from Dr. Deming, when in fact it was from a book titled The Deming Management Method by Mary Walton. My mistake. But the takeaway is still the same. Deming wasn't interested in management's guesses about how a process or a system worked. He wanted to see the data. As we go forward, you will learn more and more about the importance Deming placed on data. Today, I want to share more about Dr. Deming and what he was best known for: teaching the Japanese to produce quality. Anyone who knows anything about Deming can probably quickly recall his famous 14 points, and we will get into that. But in my opinion, there are other aspects of Dr. Deming's teachings that you need to understand, in addition to those 14 points. To do that, let me start by giving you a brief history lesson. In 1950, Japan was in ruins. Made in Japan didn't mean quality, it meant junk. They basically had very little money, no resources, and no hope of competing with the American industrial complex. But they had one thing the American industrial leaders didn't have. They were humble enough to listen. They realized that their challenge really wasn't management, it was survival. They decided to listen to an American, Dr. Deming, for help, and he gave them two high-level flowcharts. The first was the chain reaction flowchart. In August of 1950, Dr. Deming stood before a group of 45 Japanese chief executive officers and made a promise. If they followed his system, they would capture the world market in 5 years. They did it in 4. Talk about being a disruptor. That's the power Deming's teachings offer. Meanwhile, American leaders, the titans of global industry at that time, turned away from Deming, thinking they didn't need his help. They were interested in producing quantity. Deming was interested in producing quality. They were wrong. I spent 12 years as a Fortune 500 vice president, and I'm here to show you the same principles the American leaders ignored are the exact ones that I used to generate an ROI that was over 100% better than my industry's average. Today, I'm going to show you the two primary flowcharts Deming used to spark the Industrial Revolution in Japan. And I will put a link below so that you can get each of those. The first is Deming's chain reaction. Allow me to set the stage for today's message by reminding you that within the American industry, there have been leaders who've had a long-held belief that producing quality required increasing cost. Some may still hold on to this belief. That thinking was wrong back then, and it's still wrong today. Deming used the following chain reaction flowchart to teach that the Japanese, by producing quality, would actually reduce their cost and do so much more. He told them by using this flowchart, they could evolve from being a country with a reputation of producing poor quality to a country that was known for just the opposite. and they could compete with any country in the world. And they did. After this first meeting with the Japanese, this reaction, or this chain reaction flowchart, was adopted and used by all Japanese companies going forward. And I think it's important for you to understand this very, very important concept. So let's take a deeper look at this chain reaction flowchart. If, a big if you improve quality, you will reduce your cost. Within the 14 points, there are suggestions, obviously, on how to improve your quality, and we will get into that. In my management days before Deming, I spent countless hours each week helping my department heads to put out some kind of fire. Perhaps one day it was a shipment that didn't arrive, which we really needed, or a shipment was missing, or some items in the shipment that was sent was being shipment. Some of those items were missing, or the delivery didn't arrive on time, or the delivery came in and they were priced at the wrong price, or a large customer payment was growing later by the day, or there was not enough storage space in the vault for our narcotics, or the system was running slow today, or one thing after another after another. And I would go home each night having put out that fire that was going on that day, thinking I was doing a great job of managing my division, when in reality, I was like a hamster running on a wheel every day. Nothing was really being done to improve the quality of our system or our processes. After Deming, whole new world. Me and my team, began to identify the systems that we used, the individual processes that made up those things, and we started working on those so that we could change them and make them more efficient. Therefore, slowly, we experienced less fires, less headaches, more time for innovation and to talk about additional and further improvement. Our bottom line began to change. The customer service seemed to be easier to handle because there were fewer complaints. We could afford to pay our staff more money because we were retaining more of that profit, which meant we could retain and hire good people because our business was expanding. We could afford to train them more, to teach them more about their position, and also better understand the position of their supplier, the person or the position ahead of them in the process, and their customer, which was really the position behind them in a process. In a way, metaphorically speaking, it was kind of like looking at a lake one day and seeing the waves, big waves all over the water. And then over time, you began to see the waves get smaller and smaller. And suddenly you walk in one day and you realize the business is beginning to run kind of like a well-oiled machine. This allowed us not only to make more money, but in the process we became very competitive with our pricing regarding how our customers could compete with us, which helped grow our top line, which allowed us to hire more staff because we had additional business. All of this was by focusing on continuous quality improvement that Dr. Deming taught us. The Japanese weren't the only ones to use this chart and Dr. Deming's teachings. In the 90s, the Koreans, and specifically Hyundai, used the same chain reaction to turn around their reputation. They stopped looking at the price tag and started looking at the process. And now they are a dominant force in the global market. The sports car Porsche also had some financial issues in the 90s, also used Dr. Deming's teachings to implement just-in-time manufacturing and continuous quality improvement. They've since become very, very profitable and known for their quality. But it wasn't just car companies. Lots of other companies, Sony, Bridgestone, Samsung, LG, Panasonic, Canon, and many, many others have adopted Deming's teachings. For your information, Deming also worked with American companies, even American car companies. But the problem is the Japanese have had a big head start, and they're not waiting for anybody to catch up. So you might ask yourself, what's the purpose of seeing this chart today? You need to realize that this simple looking little chain reaction chart is one of the keys to unlocking Deming's teachings. The same day Dr. Deming talked to the Japanese CEOs about this chain reaction flow chart, he also introduced the idea that production should be viewed as a system. This flow chart is a simplified version of what Dr. Deming introduced, and it illustrates a number of things that for senior management. One very, very important concept. Deming stressed that the consumer is the most important part of the production line. Quality should be aimed at the needs of the consumer, both present and in the future. And that quality begins with intent, which of course is fixed by management. The entry-level worker or the mid-level worker can't change the system. They can't change the intent. Only management can do that. As you look at this flowchart, imagine being an entry-level or a mid-level employee and how little impact you can have on any part of this flowchart. That's why quality must involve everyone in the organization, but the responsibility of improving the system lies totally with the management. Next week, we will continue to focus on Dr. Deming's teachings by looking at what he called profound knowledge. This, in his world, was also extremely important. What he thought that every leader should understand. I hope you'll join me then. Thank you.